Jesus was not sent for you to worship, especially women. Think about this. Mary birthed Jesus without needing a sperm, right? She birthed through her own power, not some God in the sky. It's her own power. That's a knowledge that was erased, okay? Women could and can birth without needing a sperm, okay? It's just something that's erased and we don't have the knowledge yet. But Mary time she had the knowledge to birth without a sperm. So she did it. And she did it because women didn't have rights, okay? During that time was like a Roman time, right? I don't know. But that time, patriarchy was brutal. Like women didn't have rights. They were treated like a vessel, like they were slaves. So they didn't have any leadership positions at all. Like women were not allowed. Even Roman women struggled to lead. So Mary had to birth Jesus and she raised him so that he can advocate for women and children and help men to see the truth, basically to show men, because a lot of men were being raised like to abuse. They were abusing power. So Jesus was sent by Mary, the goddess. She's the goddess, but they don't want to acknowledge that, okay? There's no God without goddess, but then they made us worship Jesus. Imagine, would Mary, who birthed her own son, worship her own son? Does that make any sense? And women are forced for generation to worship Jesus. Jesus is your son. They're basically asking you, do you know how this is like a joke, honestly, if you really think about it. Think about Mary's position. She's a woman just like you. She birthed a child. That child was raised to advocate for women's rights, to advocate, for children, for animals, to make sure that men stop violating the planet and the women, right? But then the Romans were against that. That's why they had to kill Jesus. And Jesus, he died to protect women. He died to protect women. It wasn't just for men that he died for. He's not just a savior, he had to die to protect his mother, to protect the goddess, right? Because the Romans would have killed her if he used her name. But he was leading on his own to protect his family. But the teaching, the vision, the purpose came from his mother, Mary. It was her purpose, her mission to show her son to lead these men, these corrupted men. So when the Romans noticed that a lot of men were willing to follow Jesus, that scared the head out of them. Their whole system was collapsing and it was being challenged. So they had to make an example and kill him, right? So otherwise they would have killed like his whole family. They would have like killed all the women and children. So Jesus had to let go because they threatened him. They told him that we're going to kill your mother. We're going to do all these horrible things. So he had to let himself go so that he can save his people. That was exactly the reason. But his message was to, stop violence against women. Literally. That was it. So you're not meant to follow Jesus or to worship him as a woman, because that would be like worshiping your own son. That doesn't make any sense. You can't worship what you birth. There's no God without a goddess, right? If Jesus is God, but what does Mary is? Like, what is Mary then? Is Mary just a vessel? That's what they're teaching you in religion. They're reducing her power. She is the goddess. She birthed Jesus. Without her, there would be no Jesus. Without her, there would be no women rights. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Without Mary birthing Jesus, because Jesus was like born out of without trauma, right? If she did it with the man, there would have been trauma and bad energy attached to it. But because it was fresh born, she didn't need any sperm, so that makes Jesus' birth very pure. You know what I mean? He was a pure energy without any corruption. So he was easy to coach, to teach, to respect women. That's why Jesus, he went all over the world, and he tried to help women, right? He tried to teach men to stop violence, stop abusing power. But they made all of us to worship a man that came out of us. Does that make any sense to you? Stop worshiping Jesus, ladies. If anything, men are supposed to follow Jesus. Women are not supposed to follow Jesus. There's no benefit. What have you learned from Jesus? Because Jesus' teachings was all about stopping violence. It was It was about fairness. These basic natural instinct that women already have. Women don't need Jesus. It's men who need Jesus. That's what we need to differentiate, you know. So do not follow Jesus like the way men do. You're not supposed to worship him, okay? If you want to know your creator, you need to dig your own. But following Jesus would mean worshiping your own son, which makes no sense if you really think about it. So stop worshiping, Jesus. He's not a god. You know what I mean? He just became a god for men, but he's not your god as a woman. Follow Mary's teachings. Learn more about her, because women history have been erased. Okay? The truth is with Mary, not with Jesus. Jesus was just teaching about fairness, about natural order, and stop violence against women, right? He was trying to help women, right? Because women were under attack, right? He had to help women. But they don't want to teach you that. They don't want to tell you that Jesus was sent for women to help women from men and to teach men to stop violating women. That was it. So it's better if the sooner you stop worshiping Jesus, the better, because you look like a fool as a woman. They're making fun of us. Patriarchy purposely designed this system to make you look stupid. They're making you worship your own son because you don't ask questions. You just follow. It's a fantasy they built. It's not truth.